Hello and welcome to the continuing Great Give Radiothon on WNHH 103.5 FM. I'm Alan Appel. I'm the afternoon host here, and is that you, Jane Farrell?
Yes, it is. Hello, Paul.
No, I'm Alan.
Oh, hello, Alan.
You can call me Paul. I'll answer to anything. But anyway, welcome to the radio program and the Great Give, and you are with Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers of Greater New Haven, correct?
Yes, I am. I'm the executive director. Thanks for having me.
Well, our pleasure. So, you're here to tell us about the organization and are you supposed to sing a song about the Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers of New Haven, or recite some poetry, or just you can do that, or I wasn't clear to me whether in years gone by before the pandemic we used to do that, but how are you fixed for performing?
Well, I figure you've already suffered enough, so I'm not going to sing, but I'm going to recite the words to a hymn, and it's adapted from the 90th Psalm. And so I guess it's a combination of a song and a poem and some inspiration, something that I am finding very poignant in this time.
Well, Jane,
and the name of the hymn is, go ahead.
Before you do that, give us the email address of the organization, and the best way for people to make a contribution, because in the next 30 minutes we want you to pitch the group, and after the psalm you'll tell us why, but people should know in advance what's the best way to reach you. To go to thegreatgive.org and look for you, or another way?
Yeah. I think that would be an awesome way for people to connect with us. They could also go to our website, which is Care New Haven, all one word, carenewhaven.org. There's a contact form there, and that's a really good way to get a hold of us. Or to look for Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers of Greater New Haven on the Great Give website. Those are two good ways to get a hold of us.
Okay, and you'll repeat that periodically as we talk. But I want to learn a bit more about the origins of Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers, which I read a little bit about. You began in 2004, but let's hear that psalm first.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a couple of verses from the hymn. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. 1,000 ages in thy sight are like an evening gone, short as the watch that ends the night before the rising sun. Time, like an ever-rolling stream, bears all its sons away. They fly forgotten as a dream, dies at the opening day. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, be thou our guard while troubles last, and our eternal home.
I love the Psalms.
And I can hardly wait until I can be back in a church to sing that.
So yes, yeah. I love Psalm 90 and Psalm 91. They're wonderful things. In the Jewish tradition, you read Psalms to heal people. If people are ailing and you make a visit to a home, at all stages of illness, and especially when illness is serious, you read Psalms, and they're supposed to have healing powers.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me about the word. So you're Jane Farrell, and you're the executive director of Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers at carenewhaven.org. Listeners, you can go right there, or go to thegreatgive.org. But tell us a bit about the organization, which I know very little about, and what grabs me is the word interfaith. So maybe tell me a bit about that.
Sure. So Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers came out of a cooperative ministries effort that existed in downtown New Haven. It was called Downtown Cooperative Ministries, and it actually started in 1984. So we really have, I think, some pretty significant and long-lasting roots in New Haven. At the time that Interfaith was formed, the downtown churches and other faith communities had decided to launch a cooperative or an interfaith effort to address social problems. So a lot of the wonderful community organizations that we know today, like Columbus House, Downtown Evening Soup Kitchen, Community Loan Fund, all these organizations started out from Downtown Cooperative Ministries, believe it or not. Interfaith has always been the expression of faith communities concerning care for elders. So we have been in the senior service business, if you will, since 1984. Our mission is to provide the services that seniors need so they can stay in their own homes as long as possible, safe and healthy and surrounded by friends and community. We know that most seniors, 9 out of 10, more than 9 out of 10, want to stay out of institutional care as they get older. But the problem is, as you get older and you can't do all the things that you used to do, accessing some of these services or accessing some of the things that you need gets really logistically difficult. If you've ever, had to care for an elder or elderly neighbors, especially once you can't drive anymore, life gets really small and complicated and narrow and difficult. And pretty soon the people around you and even you start thinking, well, maybe it would be better to go into care. And while there's a lot of really great care places for people to be, most people do still want to keep as much independence as they can for as long as possible.
So
that's really what our mission is.
Right.
Go ahead.
Is it direct service or is it referral to other organizations? We actually provide direct service. And the beautiful part of what we do is that all of our services are provided by volunteers who tend to be in the same age bracket or demographic as our clients, because those are the people who have time during the day. But the beautiful part is that our volunteers provide the same service that a kid would, that a special friend would, that a caring neighbor would. So it's community care for an elder. And it's provided by people who have a lot of sensitivity to the person's needs. If you have a person who's 70, they can really put themselves in the shoes of that person who's 80, and they can provide them with because our services are provided by volunteers who all pay all their own costs. It's an incredibly cost-effective way to provide service. Obviously, all of our volunteers are screened and trained and backgrounded and insured, and it's a safe experience for the person who's writing or receiving services from us. But yeah, it's a beautiful model of community engagement. Oh, that's so interesting that you say Columbus House and some of the those kinds of organizations all grew out of the mid 1980s interfaith. So yeah, go on.
I was just going to mention that the Columbus House in particular, it's an example of the fact that people got together and they were trying to think creatively about some of these social problems. Because as I understand, which this is a little bit of a tangent, but during the whole issue about homelessness, people were starting to say, well, maybe we have to move beyond this 3 hots and a cot model, right? And the cool thing about DCM was that they started looking at providing services for people in different, unique ways that maybe people had not been doing it up until then. And as an example, volunteer caregiving, which is what we do, is something individual churches had been doing it before that, individual faith communities, but it was never really centralized as a mission like what we have today. So.
But and how many volunteers does Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers at carenewhaven.org? How many volunteers do you have working, and how many people do you reach? And the third question is, what's the catchment area?
Okay, so I think I'll start from the beginning there. In normal times, we have about 50 active drivers. We have about 20 people who volunteer to do other things like friendly visits. We do some respite care for people who are taking care of a person in their home with dementia. So that's in normal times. Today, we have reached out to the community for some additional help in the crisis, and we received an additional 100 volunteers from the community.
Wow.
Which has completely restored my faith in human nature.
Yeah.
And it's just been incredibly gratifying. It has been incredibly gratifying. And again, just as a side note, I want to tell you how many young people have stepped up to help us with our efforts to serve seniors. We have kids from Yale. We have kids from Southern. We have kids from Amity High School. We have kids from Hopkins. I mean, these people are just coming out of the woodwork. And I mean, I can't tell you how proud I am of our community that people have stepped up. Anyway, I don't want to get teary. So, but in normal times, as I say, we serve. We have about 800 active clients, active seniors, in our database, and so we serve those people, as I say, with our 50 drivers and our 20 visitors. And our service area, we actually cover all of New Haven County except for the Valley. So we don't serve people in the Valley, but we serve people out as far as Guilford, as far north as Meriden, and down to Milford.
And
so we really do have quite a big reach.
boy, it's really impressive. My faith in humanity is also restored hearing your story. So the younger people who have responded to your call, do they come with automobiles? Is that a chief thing, or they don't have to have automobiles for the service?
So the two things that we started to do was in normal days we do primarily medical driving. We bring people to their doctor appointments and their other medical procedures, and those are all free services that we provide. I do need to add as a side note that we're on a federal grant that's administered through the Agency on Aging for South Central Connecticut. So that does pay for our overhead here. But in normal days, we're doing between 70 and 80 rides a week where we're bringing seniors for their medical care. One of the things that we started to see happen at the beginning of March was that a lot of seniors were already taking the shelter in place thing pretty seriously. And so our volume was just dropping and dropping and dropping. I mean, so by the third week in March, we were down to about 15% of what we normally did.
Right.
So I was very worried because by definition, the people that we serve are housebound. Okay. They don't have a vehicle or they can't drive anymore. So I knew that they were housebound, and I started to get kind of worried in terms of, is anybody looking after these people? Because we have a lot of information about whether someone needs extra help. So what I did was I started recruiting people to make friendly calls to our homebound clients. So that was where all the new recruits came in, because everybody who agreed to do volunteer calling with us committed to calling every week until the end of the crisis. And they were given a list of 5 to 10 names of people to call and find out whether they needed anything, whether they were okay, whether they had support, were they things that they needed to find out. And I really need to emphasize, so about 65% of the people that we serve don't have any online or internet access at all. Okay, so these are analog people in a digital world. And so a lot of the time, our clients didn't even know what kinds of resources were available. They didn't know that their senior center could deliver them Meals on Wheels. They didn't know how to access the mobile food pantry. They didn't know their pharmacy could deliver. So a big part of what we've been doing with these friendly calls, with these reassurance calls, is helping people connect with the things that they need during the crisis. I mean, I'm sure it probably seems incredible to even imagine being in a world where you don't have any internet access, okay, where you cannot find out what's out there for you, who can help you. It's a scary feeling.
Right.
So I feel like it's really been such a privilege to be able to serve people and to get them what they need, to connect them with things. Now, with that said, it's also turned out that there are some people that can't be served by existing programs in their towns. So we're grocery shopping and we're running errands and I had to make an emergency pharmacy run the other night for something that I won't go into.
Right.
But we've had, so we've also been able, a subset of our volunteers has also been out there and they've been really busy, grocery shopping and doing other things for people that they just can't get out. They can't get out to do.
Right. So when you give out the list of 5 names for let's say for the kids from Yale or the kids from Hopkins, do they follow up and do the connections to the pharmacy or do the grocery issue, or do they pass that need along and you?
Yeah, they pass that up to me
for that.
Yeah, they pass that up.
Right.
But I wanted to tell you sort of a cute story too, and it really relates back to sort of the interfaith thing. So what we found is that we've been kind of matching the same people for doing grocery shopping with, the same clients. And we have a really cute situation where one of our clients happens to be a Muslim lady, and we have matched her with the Jewish volunteer. They passed that up. He's been going out and he's been doing. But I wanted to tell you sort of a cute story. And the other week we got a call or she called up in an emergency, and he had to get out because Ramadan was starting shopping with, but he had to get out before the Sabbath. And we have a really cute situation
because he was also religious.
One of our clients happens to be a Muslim lady. Yep. And we have matched her with a Jewish volunteer. So I just been going out and she's been doing. But I wanted to tell you sort of a story. And the other week we got into our name.
It's beyond cute. I mean, it sounds to me like it's
because Ramadan was starting shopping.
Well, but he had to get out is the core of what you do. But if it's a process of, because he was also
one of our clients happens to be a Muslim lady. And we have matched her with a Jewish volunteer. So I just been going out with these two. But I wanted to tell you
great things might maybe world peace would emerge.
Name.
It's beyond cute. I mean,
I had faith on a lot of scores.
We're like this is
Ramadan was started shopping.
But services the core of what you do. But if in the process of Radiothon, we're talking to Jane Farrell of the Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers.
Because he was also
one of our clients at carehaven.org. Well, you guys because as those great things is sometimes because he was also one of our clients organizations that I didn't know about. You must keep a low profile. Give.org and just keep doing all well. How many are you besides yourself, Jane?
Is there such thing as 0.5 of a person?
Yes, there is. That's right, especially during these terrible COVID-19 statistics.
Yeah, so we have
organizations that I didn't know about. You must keep a low profile.
But I think we get a lot done with a little.
How many are you besides yourself, Jane?
I wanted to biggest expense other than salaries is, and I did want to let you know a little bit about this. It's when people drive, this thing is 0.5. We have an online database of all of our volunteers. So when people sign up to drive, I wanted to doing after this talk. What you do as a volunteer medical driver, and I did want to let you is we put up all of our, a little bit about this. And they can match themselves to the database of all of our volunteers, which is a really efficient, nice way for us to administer programs. So when people sign up to drive, we're such a large area. We know that one of the volunteers who are also living in various parts of the county. So people can do what you do as a volunteer that I did want to let you know that it's convenient for them to do that works with their schedule. And that way too, for us, I'm not,
It
we're not.
sounds-
It sounds,
oh,
let's
let's
say there's
grant
grants
a
by
volunteering.
hey, can you do this Thursday? Can you do this next
We have
Tuesday?
them, and
People
they're-
log on, and for the most part,
varies
about
about
90% of
90%
our rides are filled.
Right.
You can do what you do, things to do, right? Then they want to let you know that it's convenient
And,
for them
and
all
the,
of
the
our, with their
system is set up
schedule.
so that people are not making 2 visits to the same person.
And that way too,
you
for
can
us,
you can see
I'm
what's
not,
already spoken
I'm
for.
not, we're not.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Exactly. And that way,
sounds
when
like
we
it's
go to
very
grants,
great
because
because
we do a really wide variety of medical stuff. Thursday, right
next
now,
Tuesday?
we decided
And
people
they're
log
gonna
on,
conform
and for the most
our-
part,
about
our
90%
confine our
of our
activities
rides
to critical medical care.
Right.
So these days,
Still,
for us,
people
it's
can
just
do
right,
what
people
you
who
do,
just
so
can
do,
do, right?
um,
Then they want to
just
let you know
care.
that post-surgery wound care, it's convenient.
And,
for them
and
to
the,
do,
the system
in
is set
normal
up so that
times, whatever,
people
if it's
are
medical
not,
related, we'll do it.
so it's during
to
these
critical
times it's
medical
the
care.
more serious stuff.
Right.
And the
So
and the
these days-
driver takes the person and waits for the person
Still,
until
you
the
can do what you
procedure
exactly do,
right?
Then
Right.
they
Right.
want to just
Right.
like you would do, just like you would do with your parent.
and these
Post-surgery
clients
wound care,
use
convenient
and
for them to
these
do,
the volunteer caregivers because
In
they
normal
don't
times,
have the means or
whatever,
or
if
their
it's medical
families
related,
are
we'll do
available
it.
to do the
So
service.
it's,
So it's
to
during these
critical
times it's
medical
the
care.
more serious stuff. And the
So
and the
these days-
driver takes the person and waits for. Think, if I lost you, Jane? I hope not. The person
Still,
until
you can
the
do
procedure
what you
is-
exactly do, right?
Just
Just like you would do,
Yeah,
just like you would do with your.
briefly
Okay.
in the 5
Am I
minutes.
back?
Can you hear me? And these
Post-surgery, yeah, I can.
clients,
Yeah, it's
so in
convenient.
the
All
brief
the
5
time.
minutes we have left, you should volunteer caregivers because you've told us
In
that
normal
they don't
times-
have the means already. I was going to ask you for an anecdote
Whatever,
or
if it's
family
medical-
story of can you hear me? A religious Jewish young volunteer.
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
so
convenient.
a Muslim woman. In the brief 5 minutes we have left, in the few minutes we have left, so tell us one more time. You've told us
In
that
normal
they don't
times-
have the means already. I was going to ask carenewhaven.org where you want people to go for an anecdote.
Whatever, if it's
What
medical
will funds
story
be used for? The people who are donating would be for to support the general organization, a religious Jewish young volunteer. Do you reimburse drivers, gas?
Yes,
And,
yeah.
so in
Yeah.
general operating, people sometimes are curious about what their donations.
in
In the
all
brief
the
5
ones.
minutes we have
So,
left,
people's
in the
donations
few minutes
would go to support a variety of programs. In addition to our driving,
we have left, so
we have
tell
a
us one
free
more. You've told us
your
that
normal
they don't
time
have
equipment lending bank,
the
which
means
means that if
already.
you need medical
People
equipment like a
sometimes are curious
walker,
about
a
what
wheelchair,
donations. In the brief 5 minutes we have
something like this, we provide that. We take used
left.
goods. People's
in the
donations
few minutes
would go to support equipment, and we clean it and fix it up, and we give it free to people who need it. In addition to our driving, what are
We have
called
left.
adult
So,
defense products.
All right.
We have a
Tell us
big
one more.
storehouse
You told us
full of
normal
normal
they don't
times.
have-
If people need those products, they can come and get them for us for free,
Story
which means that
of,
if you deliver medical equipment like
sometimes are
dinners
curious.
at Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving Day. And we have a social
in
program,
the brief 5 minutes we
like
have-
something like this. We provide that. We take so anything that you give me, you give me a dollar.
People's
I'm going to
donations
would
would
go to support equipment, and we clean it and fix it up, and we give
And you have to, and that dollar is to be given to
free
Care New
to people
Haven.
who need it. In addition to
.org,
we
to
having
the,
what are called
volunteer caregivers of Greater New Haven,
defense products.
right?
Yep, that would be a dollar.
I'm gonna say in the few minutes we-
I'm just so thrilled, and I'm so pleased to be able to participate in this. Clean it and fix it up, and we give, I
And you have
feel
to,
like
and that dollar is to be given to Care
we're
New
the privileged ones.
Haven.
To be able to, we have our clients at this time. There's a reason that they have that phrase old school. And our clients are old school. They're people who have been used to giving their whole lives. And now they're they're in a position where they have to take. And that's hard, and it can be a little embarrassing. And if we can have a volunteer there who's compassionate and caring and doesn't make it embarrassing for the person, then I feel like that's a blessing for us to be able to provide that. That's what I would want somebody to do for me when I get to that stage of my life. So.
Yeah, sign me up also. These kinds of personal relationships are as important, if not more important than making the doctor visit, in my humble opinion.
Yep. Well, that's why we call it more than just a ride. because it is.
Okay, that's wonderful. So if you want to donate to More Than Just a Ride, also known as Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers, that would be wonderful. Go to carenewhaven.org here on the great radiothon of the Great Community Foundation. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stay
Okay.
safe.
Our pleasure. You too. And on to next year.
Okay. You take care.
Bye.
Bye.